Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to remind the media that have joined us on the telephone that you may press *1 at any time in order to ask a question. That's once again *1 at any time throughout the event, and you'll be entered into the queue in order to ask a question once the formal remarks are concluded. I will now invite Minister Kang to start us off. Go ahead, Minister Kang.
Thank you so much. I would like to introduce Dr. Jeanette Armstrong from the Silic Band in Penticton. Dr. Armstrong is an academic lead on the program at UBC Okanagan and Vice President of Inauken Center. Dr. Armstrong will be offering a welcome for the event.
Thank you, Minister Lang. I'm going to speak the language for a few minutes. Why limlimt kuln zuten und limlimt menimlimt ip de micho ipiat amalail dem hulachtet und limlimt menimlimt ip sas austet ayat stimme kuln yat stimme atst ist skoltet alla ikel an qailuchtentet und yayat kul saha yayat apna ikstqul tiplas ikan qailuchten ikan wist ikelsen ma mayat ni kulsel kensut limlimt menimlimt schreisem menimlimt ich minkem ik skoltet und ali kulen limt apnas khalkhalt ulaha tus Minister Ann Kang, Minister Melanie Mark, Professor Leslie Cormack, Chief Tyrone McNeil, Dr. Verna Billy Minaberiat, Abkhastik Squapo Alta Tapnas Kalkhalt, Jakunikulum Silhik School to Tapnas Kalkhalt. I'm just was giving gratitude to our Creator and all the to me here on the Okanagan Syilx territories throughout, and also giving acknowledgement and gratitude to all of our ancestors who are the owners of this language that I speak today and the work that we celebrate today. And all the previous elders who have worked, I give gratitude to you, those of you that have left to the other side, whose great dream it was to bring this about in the work that Inauken has been involved in the last 40 years, just to get to this point. And you're giving us the honor to be able to carry this forward into the future generations. And we give welcome today to Minister Ann Kang and Minister Melanie Mark, who through their work have made this work come about so that we can enjoy and celebrate today this announcement. And I also give thanks and lift my hands up to Ilmichun, Chief Tyrone McNeil, in the work that you had in FNESC. For all the work that the FNESC does for all of our peoples throughout this province. And Professor Leslie Cormack, give gratitude to you and the work that you head up at the UBC Okanagan, and all the tremendous will of everyone that's gathered under your leadership to have made this happen. And we also lift up our hands to Dr. Verna Billy Minaberiat, my slacht, over in Chihuahua. And the amount of passion and work that you have stood beside us, not just through Ayala, but through all the work that NBIT has done to the 30 years of work with the Inauken Center to get the language in the courses up to this point, always standing by us, always supporting us. So we give gratitude today, Kolanchutin, for all of these good things that are about to be announced and that are about to be celebrated. And I want to also give gratitude to all of our chiefs here in the Okanagan Nation that are celebrating with us today this great achievement. They've stood by Anauken Center, supported Anauken Center, and have been activists many times to help bring about things that we're announcing today. And also the work that has been undertaken under their direction on our board of directors for our language speakers and our language teachers, all of them, and all the language learners that have been persevering and working so hard to make this come about today. And also I wanted to just say a few more words before I turn it back to Minister Kang, that it's such a tremendous, tremendous achievement that we celebrate under our Creator's guidance, under our Tamihu's guidance, the Tamihu who give us this language from this land. All of the sounds, the hard sounds that are, hard to say, are from this land, are from the different sounds that our birds and animals and waters and winds make on this land. So it's precious to us. And the knowledge that's contained in these words that will be part of this, we give sincere gratitude to everyone and ask for blessings for everyone that's listening in and everyone that's made this happen, that you have no idea how much it means to us as speakers, as learners, and as people of this nation. For everything. Turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Janet Armstrong. And good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Kang, Minister of Advanced Education and Skills Training, and I'm greeting you from the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, also known as the Halkomelem-speaking peoples. Thank you to Knowledge Keeper Dr. Jeanette Armstrong from the Syilx Band in Penticton for opening this event in a good way. It's wonderful to have a native speaker who is fluent in the Syilx Okanagan language with us here today. And thank you to all those joining me here today. Welcome Deputy Vice Chancellor Leslie Cormack from UBC Okanagan for supporting this, and Dr. Billy Mina-Barriet, Vice President of Nicola Valley Institute of Technology and Chair of Indigenous Adult and Higher Learning Association. Thank you, Chief Tyrone McNeil from the First Nations Education Steering Committee for all the work that led us here today. I'm honored to acknowledge the Syilx people of the Okanagan Nation and the knowledge keepers, students, and staff connected to the Anauken Center in Penticton. Indigenous languages are the original languages of BC and a critical component of the cultural identities of Indigenous peoples. Over half of fluent speakers are age 65 and older, resulting in a decline. But we also know there is good news as well. We know that there are increasing numbers of young fluent speakers and language learners. As of 2018, there were over 4,000 fluent speakers of Indigenous languages in BC. And that's why this announcement today is so exciting. It's important to acknowledge the amazing work that has gone into creating a post-secondary pathway for Syilx students to become fluent in their language. This pathway represents the dedication of many Syilx speakers who kept the language alive. Some are here with us today, and some we honor in spirit. They created audio, digital, textual, and archival resources. This also represents the visionary leadership of Dr. Armstrong for her concept paper that made these case for bridging traditional knowledge and community language learning with degree accreditation. That work was initiated by the First Nations Education Steering Committee and Indigenous Adult and Higher Learning Association. The work to get here included developing the guiding principles of an Indigenous language fluency and proficiency degree, and emphasizing instruction through immersion, to getting to the framework finalized to launching this pilot program. We are very grateful for the collaborations that are at the cornerstone of this announcement. So today, I am thrilled to announce the first degree under this new framework, the Bachelor of Nisilikan Language Fluency. I am so proud that the ministry was able to invest in this initiative with $2 million. With this degree, learners will immerse themselves in the language learning within an Indigenous community, achieve a diploma through Nicola Valley Institute of Technology, then transfer their credits to complete a bachelor's degree from UBC Okanagan. This educational journey has the potential to ultimately lead to a bachelor's degree, is significant and is very unique. This is the first pilot program to be launched, and there are 5 more in the works. They will be with Lake Babine Nation, Lillooet Tribal Council, the Nicola Bands, Will Wilcox Niska Institute and the University of Northern BC, Wasanich School Board and the University of Victoria. Degree accreditation opens doors to in-demand professions such as teaching, governance, health, and cultural heritage work. Students will gain fluency, and they will also gain extensive experience in techniques for revitalizing indigenous languages. They will expand language mastery and apply that to a variety of careers and community roles. I am hopeful that this encourages more people to go into teaching, because across BC, the most urgent unmet needs for Indigenous language instructors is in K-12. Indigenous language revitalization is key to Indigenous self-determination. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action number 16 is significant to this announcement today. It says, we call upon post-secondary institutions to create university and college degree and diploma programs in Aboriginal languages. So is Article 14.1 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights to Indigenous Peoples. Indigenous peoples have the right to establish and control their educational systems and institutions, providing education in their own languages in a manner appropriate to their cultural methods of teaching and learning. Language and culture play such a major role in all areas of community life, so there are many career paths graduates can follow. Fluent speakers will then become employed in good paying positions, and that alone is sure to make a big difference in how these languages are shared and perpetuated. That is the dream, and I am so grateful for the many people working together who have made and will continue to make this dream a reality. I want to wholeheartedly congratulate UBC Okanagan, Nicola Valley Institute of Technology, the Naukan Center, the First Nations Education Steering Committee, the Indigenous Adult and Higher Learning Association, and everyone who has helped make this new Bachelor of Nisilikan Language Fluency a reality. This first degree under this new learning framework offers hope that the linguistic heritage of the Syilx Okanagan peoples will continue, will be spoken and heard, and will continue to evolve and flourish. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite my good friend and colleague, Minister Melanie Mark, to the virtual podium. Minister Mark.
Good morning, everyone. Simgaget, Sigaramanak, Kiwit Wiltsuk. It is my honor to be participating and seeing all of your beautiful faces from my constituency office on the traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I want to thank all the speakers. Thank you, Minister Kang, for inviting me to join this historic moment. And Dr. Jeanette Armstrong, thank you for your words. Thank you for being an ambassador of the importance of fighting for our language and fighting for the lifeline that is so important to our communities. And just to honor your Silk Nation and the territory that you're participating from and everyone's traditional territories. Minister King allowed me to crash this announcement along with you. This was a very important initiative that I was able to work on as the former Minister of Advanced Education, Skills and Training, and just to really highlight and underscore the determination that Dr. Armstrong talked about, and the champions, the Vernas of the world, the Tyrones of the world, that sense of collective impact and pushing the envelope and not giving up is in our blood. As Indigenous people, I'm a Niska and Gitxsan on my mom's side, and Cree and Ojibwe on my dad's side. 3 of my grandparents went to residential school, and there's a long history of why we don't speak our language, but also to celebrate those that had the courage and determination to hold on. In my family, I always knew something was going down when my grandparents spoke Niska and Gitxsan, and I regret that they're not here today to teach my grandchildren. But I also think that in our journey of reconciliation, that it's not a destination, that it's an ongoing, evolving process, and the change happens because people fight and advocate, and they come to the table. The Inalquin Center is such a beautiful place that everyone should have the right to visit. And of course, UBC Okanagan for coming to the table. Everyone paddling together to make this day possible is what makes it so historic. It's what brings the calls to action into the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, that we need to make change because our lifeline, our identities, and our cultures are relying on it. So, Tuxism, thank you so much for everyone and your efforts to bring a lighter sense of hope for the next generation. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Leslie Cormack, the Deputy Vice Chancellor at UBC Okanagan. And congratulations, everyone. Today, despite the fact that we're in the middle of a global pandemic, I think it's important to take pause and celebrate this tremendous achievement. Tuxism.
Thank you, Minister Mark. Good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie Cormack, and I'm pleased to serve as the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Principal at UBC's Okanagan campus. I'm deeply honored to be here today as we celebrate this historic new program and take this opportunity to welcome the first cohort of students into the Bachelor of Ensilikan Language Fluency program this fall. This program is the first of its kind in Canada, representing an innovative collaboration between the Syilx Okanagan Nation, the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology, the Inalquin Center, and UBC Okanagan. In this program, students have the opportunity to begin their studies through NVIT and Inalquin before transitioning to UBC Okanagan, where they will experience immersive language instruction from fluent speakers and knowledge keepers. It's our hope that this program will help sustain and revitalize Syilx language traditions and preserve the traditional knowledge and cultural practices of the Syilx peoples. And I would actually say, Minister Mark, that I think especially during COVID times, this is important to think about this, because there's never been a moment when communication has been more important and when culture and tradition has been more important. UBC's Okanagan campus was established in 2005 in partnership with Syilx Okanagan chiefs, beginning our long-standing relationship as neighbors, partners, and friends. In 2019, the UBC Okanagan pledged to support Indigenous students, culture, and scholarship through 5 commitments in response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. One of those commitments was to develop and implement activities that support the revitalization of language fluency. This new program is an important step in that direction, and I hope it will be the first of many Indigenous language fluency degrees of its kind. I want to recognize the BC Government, First Nations Education Steering Committee, and the Indigenous Adult and Higher Learning Association for their leadership in establishing the language proficiency and fluency degree framework, which paved the way for this innovative program. I'd also like to thank the many people and organizations who have worked together, as you've heard, for many years, for at least a generation, to preserve the language and history for future generations. Especially, I want to thank UBCO Associate Professor Jeanette Armstrong, NVIT, Inauken, and the many Silks Okanagan Nation elders, fluent speakers, and knowledge keepers who contributed their voices and expertise. Together, we are taking an important step to advance Indigenous peoples' human rights and strengthen Indigenous communities for generations to come. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Verna Billy Minabariat, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology and Chair of the Indigenous Adult and Higher Learning Association.
Wait, Latlukanwi, in Queschuanquin, in Shamachjun, Dr. Verna Billy Minabariat. I'd like to take this time to thank the Adult and Higher Learning Association, all of the 42 members that have really worked hard and are the foundation of us moving forward. I would also like to thank Dr. Jeanette Armstrong for her opening words, Dr. Kang and Minister Mark, who have both really helped us and to build this awesome, beautiful program. It's a very special occasion that we gather to celebrate the approval and the implementation of the Insilkshin language fluency degree. This degree is a culmination of many years of work by the Indigenous peoples, by the post-secondary system, and partners and language advocates. It is a major milestone in advancing relevant and responsive language programming in British Columbia. This is a unique degree. It isn't a traditional linguistics degree or a teaching degree, but it recognizes the accomplishments of fluent speakers to attain accreditation in their language. The recognition is significant to all First Nations people in this province. The degree would not have been possible without the guidance of the Indigenous institutes working together through the Indigenous Adult and Higher Learning Association, IALAS. IALA members have led the way in the development of the Indigenous Language Fluency Framework and guided its implementation in communities, and has been working for the last 35 years on this initiative. We also want to recognize the efforts and leadership role of the Inauken Center. The Inauken Center has worked tirelessly to build and foster unique partnerships and approaches to make this degree program a reality. I want to thank Dr. Jeanette Armstrong for her concept paper, which really started this to roll about 15 years ago. I would also like to recognize the role of the First Nations Education Steering Committee and the consortium partners who provided valuable support in initiating and advancing the language fluency degree framework from its early stages. FINESC has been a great partner with IALA. They have worked hand in hand and walked side by side, and that is an important initiative in Indigenous education in this province. I would really like to send a heartful thankful to the board, the faculty, and the staff of the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology for their assistance, their commitment, their continued support in the initiative, and to their development around making sure and ensuring that First Nations languages is a priority in post-secondary education. Much more work is ahead of us to support our speakers to build their fluency and revitalize our 34 BC First Nations languages, all of which are in need of support. It is vital that we continue to build partnerships between our Indigenous institutes and public post-secondary institutions in order to expand accredited community-based language fluency programming across the province. On behalf of IALA and NVIT, I congratulate Inauken Center and all of its partners for the approval of the degree program and for the trailblazers in the development of the Indigenous Language Fluency Initiative. I want to say a special thank you and honoring of all the language speakers, all the language cultural holders and knowledge keepers who have come before us and who continue to work with us and walk our trail. And I would like to thank very much the ministry for the funding that has allowed us to do this, and for their continued support and understanding, and also for the process of building this process to look at reconciliation and how we implement reconciliation in our province. And with that, I would like to thank you and turn this over to Tyrone McNeil, Chief.
Hi, Berna. Lata simnel siaya. Kachi islag til squeak stalo silsa. Settle loyal. Just like to acknowledge all of our partners here. It's a good day. It's a good day to pause and reflect and celebrate. It's certainly my pleasure on behalf of my 130 board members to be here to share some words with all of our partners here, but highlighting Dr. Armstrong, Jeanette. Thank you for starting us in a good way. Thanking Jeanette back in your concept paper when I know that you spearheaded this languages initiative for so long. I can remember calling a team of First Nations across the province together to discuss what are we going to do about this concept paper that you developed for us. And in that there was five First Nations, and three of you, you and Verna at the time, had PhDs, and the other two decided to do their dissertation, and they became PhDs. So tremendous capacity within our BC-wide First Nations community to help advance this, but much of this work was spearheaded by your concept paper that started us down this pathway. So I can't help but feel how appropriate it is that we're here celebrating with you, Jeanette. And I know it's not you alone, it's your family, it's your team, it's an Alcan Center. There's a lot there, just like there's a lot of people behind me, but I get the pleasure of being the voice of many, as you are for your team. And just signaling the importance of this, not only the degree program itself, but the partnership, the relation with us and the Ministry of Advanced Education. Minister Mark, I'm so glad you could make it here. Consider to work with you when you led that portfolio. So much looking forward to working with Minister Kang in this regard as well. And just acknowledging that this is the first out the gate, where we have so much more to do in the province, but we're celebrating this because this is an icebreaker, paving the way for so many other languages, so many other partnership opportunities between our IALA institutes and public post-secondary institutes such as UBCO. Very appreciative of the relationship UBCO was maintained over the years. And again, I think it's appropriate, Leslie, that the first celebration here include you and your institute, because you've been a good partner for First Nations for so long. So we appreciate what the university's done to support us across the board, but in particular in developing this degree to the point that brings us here to celebrate. And just acknowledging as well the importance of this degree to be built under our terms with such skill and capacity that we have in our community, such as our two First Nations doctors here and others, and built in such a way that we're not responding to somebody else's worldview or somebody else's context. It's built under our worldview, so we see ourselves reflected in it. And we experience and lessons learned shows us that success is built by that when it's relevant to us. And when we build it, we build in those mechanisms of relevancy, because it's so important to develop capacity around language teachers, language instruction. There are 32 distinct languages here in the province. We just simply don't have enough teachers. A huge will, a huge want to rebuild and revitalize our languages, but we need more teachers, such as this program is going to make available to communities. So today is a huge day on behalf of FNESC to celebrate here with our long-standing partner, Verna and Ayala. It's been great working with you on this over the years. For the Okanagan Syilx people, in the Syilx speaking people, I really hope word gets out to the community, Jeanette, in a meaningful way. The significance of this is the first of its kind. It's appropriate that we pause and celebrate. We share a few words. We acknowledge a select group of leaders such as Jeanette and Verna, NVIT, Anaukan Center, UBCO, and our partnerships with the province here, now led by Minister Kang. So with that, on behalf of FNESC, I'd like to thank you all for not only taking the time here today to celebrate, but probably more importantly, shouldn't say probably, more importantly, for all those people that put in the years of work, that hard dedication to get us here to a point to celebrate something that's so good to the Syilxchin speaking people and then us broadly throughout the province as well. Hi Chapka Siem, hi Chapka Siem. With that, Minister, I believe we're opening up to questions and answers.
Yes, thank you very much to all of our speakers. I'd like to remind everyone on the phone, all the media on the phone, please press *1 on your phone. That's *1 to enter the queue to have an opportunity to ask a question. We'll allow anyone who does enter the queue a chance to ask a question as well as a follow-up. And if you do enter the queue, please remember to take your phone off of mute. You will not be audible until your name is called and your question is set to begin. Before we go to questions, though, I'd like to ask all of our speakers to briefly pose for a photo, looking into your camera, so we can capture this moment in a photo. Great. Now I'm just going to check once more of the media on the phone. No one has indicated for a question, so I'm just going to give it another 3 seconds just to...
There don't appear to be any questions at this time.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. That will then conclude our announcement. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us on the line, the media listening in, and everyone, of course, who took the time to